Good morning. It is Friday, November the 9th, and this is The Drill. Okay, this is Ron. Thank you very much. This is Ron, your host, the only true conservative in the United States of America, because I'm the only one that makes the presumption for the status quo. So this morning on my little monologue segment, I found a clip from Bill O'Reilly, his new show on YouTube. So I wanted to play this because it's got some interesting, he says some interesting things that I want to go ahead and comment on. And the title of this is Where Pinhead Jim Acosta Went Wrong.
The election for you in a very accurate, no-nonsense, nonpartisan way. When I say nonpartisan, it means that I'm not spinning anything. And where all the other networks do, I don't. It's going to be straight right to you, what happened and why I think it happened. But first, I got to get to this CNN Jim Acosta stuff. So as you know, because I've been saying it since I started this broadcast about 18 months ago, the press is corrupt in America. And the chieftains, the media bosses who run the journalism enterprises, give orders to their people. You do this. This is how we are going to report the story. I first started 45 years ago, and that never happened. Now it happens all the time. CNN is in the business to trash Donald Trump. Everybody knows that. All right, nobody can say honestly, I don't believe it, or it's not happening. That's what CNN does every day. So does the New York Times, so does NBC, MSNBC, so does the Washington Post. Okay? Now, Acosta is the White House correspondent. Now, I have an insight into this probably better than any human being on earth. I've interviewed President Gerald Ford. I've interviewed President Clinton. I've interviewed Hillary Clinton. President Bush the Younger 3 times, President Obama 3 times, President Trump 30 times, all right? I have interviewed them all. If you ever want to see them, Google President Obama, Bill O'Reilly, President Bush, Bill O'Reilly, and you pop up and you can see it. I consider myself the toughest interviewer in the country, okay? And when I did those interviews with those men, I was criticized because I did interrupt them. Once they started to bloviate, once they wouldn't answer the question for whatever reason, I came in. I got criticized by the left and the right. I took the criticism, but I was never disrespectful. And I always couched my questions around facts. I did not give my opinion unless asked. And a couple of times I was asked by the presidents. But I would couch it around facts. This happened. Why did you do this? That's my typical question. Okay? For example, in Barack Obama, Muslim Brotherhood are killers. All right, they're a threat to the Egyptian government. Why are you backing Muslim Brotherhood, Mr. President? That was for Barack Obama. He didn't like that question. But I didn't debate him after he gave the answer. I had a respect for the office. And once he answered it, I moved on to another question. Jim Acosta has no respect for the office. He hates President Trump and all of the people who work for him. Now, he'll deny that, but he gets up and immediately starts a debate, not a question and answer, a debate. Roll the tape.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to challenge you on one of the statements that you made in the tail end of the campaign in the midterms.
Here we go.
If you don't mind, Mr. President, that this caravan was an invasion. As you know, Mr. President,
I consider it to be an invasion.
As you know, Mr. President, the caravan was not an invasion. It's a group of migrants moving up from Central America towards the border with the U.S.
Thank you for telling me that.
They're hundreds of miles away, though. They're hundreds and hundreds of miles away. That's not an invasion.
Honestly, I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
All right.
And if you did it well, your ratings would be much better.
Okay, so what Acosta is doing is he's debating. He's not asking. If you wanted to ask about an invasion, you say, Mr. President, why do you consider it an invasion? I consider it an invasion. All right? You get 7,000 people organized in a foreign country, Honduras. They are marching thousands of miles with the express intent of crossing the American border and seeking asylum. That's an invasion, in my opinion. It falls under the definition of invasion. A home invasion is when people come into your home not invited. We didn't invite 7,000 people from Honduras. The U.S. government did not invite them, nor did the U.S. people. Okay? Home invasion, border invasion. But this pinhead Acosta, what he's doing is so wrong and so against every journalistic rule. He wants to debate and demean Donald Trump, the President of the United States. That's his intent. His intent isn't to seek information. If it was, he would say, why do you consider it an invasion when they're 1,000 miles away? They haven't even shown up yet. And then let the president answer. You want to follow up? Fine. But no, he says, quote, the caravan is not an invasion. Look, Acosta, nobody cares what you think. Okay, if they did, you'd have a primetime opinion show. No one cares. Least of all, President Trump. You're taking valuable time away from the American people who want a Q&A. And you're disrespectful to boot.
Okay, so there you go. There's the clip on Jim Acosta. First few things, he's braggadocious. This is, again, where the people on the right, the pundits, have a tendency to waste a lot of time and effort bragging about themselves. Okay, I've been around for 45 years. I've interviewed all these important people, blah, 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 blah. What he should do, if he's been around for that long, if he has some high visibility, which he had his own show and all that, and it was highly rated, he shouldn't need to. He shouldn't do it. What he should do is just assume, hey, I'm Bill O'Reilly. I've been on TV. Everybody knows who I am, and knows what my credentials are. Okay, and just assume that everybody knows and understands that, and get on with it. Quit bragging. You waste time, and it doesn't do me, the average listener, any good. It doesn't help me deal with the socialists in my life. The other part is that when he's getting into the Jim Acosta thing, he recognizes, maybe for the first time, the first time I've ever heard him recognize debate, that this is what, the only thing deal with Acosta is Acosta was blatant about it. He blatantly debated the president. Oh, this is not an invasion. Usually, people in the news business are much more subtle. People in the news business have been debating the people they're interviewing for a long time. They do it under the guise of conducting an interview. And the way they do that is by asking, by using what is known as the Socratic method. In this particular case, if Jim Acosta wanted to debate the president but make it sound like an interview, then he would say something to the effect of, Mr. President, you've called this an invasion, but isn't it true that really what this is just migrants that are a few hundred miles from the border that pose a threat to nobody? That's the way you would debate your interview subject without doing so, without being, while at the same time maintaining the guise of conducting an interview. But when you come right out and say, well, no, you're wrong, this is not, then Bill O'Reilly is absolutely correct. Now he's conducting a blatant debate. And the president could have and should have brought that up. Excuse me, Mr. Acosta, but you're debating me here. Now, if you want to engage in a debate, we might be able to set that up. But I'm not here to debate you right now. I'm here to answer questions. Do you have a question? And if not, then you move on to somebody else. Okay, so Bill O'Reilly did figure that out, but what he hasn't figured out is that debates have been, with interview subjects, have been going on for long time. It's just that usually the left is better at hiding it. Okay. In this particular case, I guess Jim Acosta is just, I don't know, he's just so desperate to start the revolution that he's just going to drop all pretense to conducting an interview and just go into full debate mode. So, one of the other things that I discovered yesterday and the day before that I think is absolutely essential for everybody to understand is, and one of the things I'm driving at, is the psychologistic nature of the left. That the way they try to do things today is by manipulating people and getting in their psyche. I ran across a book that was about, because I'd heard the term and read about the term, and I actually heard it on Criminal Minds, the show Criminal Minds, called gaslighting. And it's a psychological term for the way a person will, it's a technique for somebody to manipulate another individual. So then I got into reading about narcissism. And it struck me as being, again, an absolutely beautiful description of the left in general. It's just narcissistic. And that the narcissist has all kinds of psychological tools and techniques that he or she uses in order to manipulate the people around them. So when I come back, I'm going to be reading, there's a couple of books that I got, some samples, and so I'm going to read from those two books when we get back. Thank you very much, and welcome back. And the first book I'm going to be reading is called 30 Covert Emotional Manipulation Tactics. And from chapter 1, what is covert emotional manipulation? And there's a quote from a lady named Evita Oshel. Quote, until you realize how easily it is for your mind to be manipulated, you remain the puppet of someone else's game, unquote. Covert emotional manipulation tactics are underhanded methods of control. These deceptive tactics act to change your behavior and perceptions. Covert manipulation operates under the level of your conscious awareness. Victims usually do not realize they are being manipulated while it is happening. That is exactly why it is important to become aware of the methods manipulators use. Who are these manipulative people? The most skillful and dangerous manipulators are those included in psychology's, quote, dark triad, unquote. Psychopathic, narcissistic, and Machiavellian personalities lack empathy and manipulate in a planned and purposeful way for their own personal gain, no matter the cost to someone else. They are callous, insensitive, aggressive, and opportunistic individuals who use others and act out against them to achieve their own ends. It is entirely possible to have a member of the dark triad as your partner, friend, neighbor, relative, coworker, or boss. They attempt to hide who they really are by creating a seemingly normal and often a charming and likable persona, but their malicious intent remains active behind the mask. These individuals are detrimental to the mental health of anyone who has close contact with them. People without serious psychological disorders also use manipulation to get what they want, often without malicious intent, and sometimes without any awareness of what they are doing. It is said that we are all guilty of using manipulation on occasion instead of communicating our needs and desires in a direct way. There is a significant difference between someone who is a pathological manipulator and someone who uses manipulation to get what they want from time to time. Pathological manipulators have no other way to relate to others and nothing real to offer in a relationship, such as love and intimacy. There is no way to change them. Manipulation undermines your ability to consciously make decisions and take actions in your own best interest, in accordance with your personal values and boundaries. In other words, manipulation gets you to do things you wouldn't otherwise do. At its worst, emotional manipulation methodically wears down your self-worth and self-confidence and damages your trust in your own perceptions. It can make you unwittingly compromise yourself to the point of losing your self-respect and developing a warped concept of reality. With your defenses weakened or completely disarmed in this manner, you are left even more vulnerable to further manipulation. A skilled emotional manipulator gets you to put your sense of self-worth and emotional well-being into his or her hands. Once you're tricked into making that grave mistake, they methodically chip away at your identity and wreak havoc on your psychological health, and serious harm results. In order to be successful, a malicious manipulator must know your vulnerabilities, conceal their aggressive intentions and behavior, and be ruthless enough not to care what harm their manipulation causes you. Taking control and getting what they want are all that matters. Becoming aware of the tactics manipulators use enables you to identify concealed aggression. But it is not always easy to do, because manipulators count on your trust, doubt, and strong emotions, guilt, fear, love, and shame, to prevent you from thinking clearly and seeing the manipulation. In many cases, they manufacture these emotions purposely for that reason. That's how manipulators get away with what they do. Therefore, it is very important for you to recognize when you are doubting your own perceptions or intuition or experiencing an emotion that makes you vulnerable to manipulation. Although this book is focused on romantic relationships, the manipulation tactics described are simply that, manipulation tactics. They are the very same methods employed by manipulative friends, family members, coworkers, bosses, neighbors, and even children. So, again, and this is, I contend, the modus operandi of all socialists worldwide. Everybody on the left, from Antifa to the Communist Party, they all are psychological manipulators. And as far as I'm concerned, narcissistic. And Tammy Bruce bears this out. She's testified in her book about the propensity for the left to train their own, for lack of a better term, to become narcissists and narcissistic. Let's see what we got here. Next book is called In Sheep's Clothing, and it's about understanding manipulative personalities. So we're going to read from the introduction here. It's called Covert Aggression. Let's see what we got here. I want to see how long this chapter is. It's rather long, so I'm only going to read probably a section of it. Covert aggression, the heart of manipulation. A common problem. Perhaps the following scenarios will sound familiar. A wife tries to sort out her mixed feelings. She's mad at her husband for insisting their daughter make all A's, but she doubts she has the right to be mad. When she suggested that given her appraisal of her daughter's abilities, he might be making unreasonable demands, his comeback, shouldn't any good parent want their child to do well and succeed in life, made her feel like the insensitive one. In fact, whenever she confronts him, she somehow ends up feeling like the bad guy herself. When she suggested there might be more to her daughter's recent problems and that the family might do well to seek counseling, his retort, quote, "Are you saying I'm psychiatrically disturbed?" unquote, made her feel guilty for bringing up the issue. She often tries to assert her point of view, but always ends up giving in to his. Sometimes she thinks the problem is him, believing him to be selfish, demanding, intimidating, and controlling. But this is a loyal husband, a good provider, and a respected member of the community. By all rights, she shouldn't resent him. Yet, she does. So she constantly wonders if there isn't something wrong with her. And in this particular scenario, I contend that the Republican Party is the woman, and the Democrat Party is the male manipulator. Next paragraph. A mother tries desperately to understand her daughter's behavior. No young girl, she thought, would threaten to leave home, say things like, quote, "Everybody hates me," unquote, and, quote, "I wish I were never born," unquote, unless you were very insecure, afraid, and probably depressed. Part of her thinks her daughter is still the same child who used to hold her breath until she turned blue or threw temper tantrums whenever she didn't get her way. After all, it seems she only says and does these things when she's about to be disciplined or she's trying to get something she wants. But a part of her is afraid to believe that. Quote, "What if she really believes what she's saying?" unquote, she wonders. Quote, "What if I've really done something to hurt her and I just don't realize it?" unquote, she worries. She hates to feel bullied by her daughter's threats and emotional displays, but she can't take the chance her daughter might really be hurting, can she? Besides, children just don't act this way unless they really feel insecure or threatened in some way underneath it all. Do they? So, and again, I contend that the mother in this particular case would be representing the Republican Party, and the child in this particular case, the Democrat Party, because that's the dynamic. Another way of looking at the Republican-Democrat dynamic is strict parent, lenient parent. The Republicans are the strict parent. The Democrats are the lenient parent. Democrats are always telling people, sure, do whatever you want. You have sex all the time. You want to have abortions left and right. You want to get drunk. You want to get high. You want to do this. Knock yourself out. Have a good time. And then dare the Republicans to step in and say no. Dare the Republicans to be the responsible parent. So, a couple of ways. And then after, or next time, it's going to be, I'm going to read the part of the chapter called The Heart of the Problem. But until then, this wraps up another episode of The Drill. And until next time, I thank you for listening and have a great day.